Hello, everybody. Um, I'm going to be talking about the Killdozer. Um, I love the made for TV horror films from the 19 the 1970s. You know, like the movie of the week kind of things. Um, they most of them had good solid talent both in front of and behind the camera, and the storylines were were not were not complicated. You know, it was just meant to be entertainment. And these films back then, it was kind of the first experiences that a lot of young folks had with horror films, because back in the days before everybody had VCRs, a kid's options, they didn't have too many options, and TV was the main the main access that a lot of folks had back then. And I'm sitting here talking, and I have a dog on my foot, so it's kind of hard to stay um, focused. Say hello, everybody. and uh, and, and yeah, they made for TV films. They have no gore or anything like that, of course. But what they do have, they make up for the lack of gore with with atmosphere and suspense. And I don't know, in a way, is especially the older that I get, gore means less now to me than it used to. And if if I can find something that's got a good story, or it's got a good atmosphere, and it can make me feel something, that means a lot more to me than seeing gore. And so, yeah, a lot of these made for TV films, it was kind of the opening of the door for a lot of folks. And that is true even after, they might have first aired in 1974 or something, which Killdozer is from 1974. But because the but But because the networks either could show the films for free or for not much at all, they took full advantage of that. And these things were on the air a lot during Sunday evenings and after midnights and stuff. It was a cheap and easy way to fill air time. And so I couldn't even guess the size of the audience that these things had over the years. I mean, a lot of them, they were still being aired quite a bit in like the late '80s, and some of the titles are better known than others, like Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, the Legend of Lizzie Borden, the Trilogy of Terror, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and of course Killdozer. And that is a fantastic title. There is just something about that title that it just grabs your attention. It's a totally ridiculous, but it works. If you're going through and you see that there's a movie on called Killdozer, odds are you'll at least turn over there and see how bad that it is. Killdozer is based on a short story by a guy named Theodore Sturgeon. And while you may not just know his name right off the bat, he wrote a lot. He worked a lot in the pulps. He, stuff like Weird Tales. He did some work on Star Trek. I read somewhere that he's the one that came up with Live Long and Prosper, which that's that having that and having the Killdozer on his resume. What more can you ask for? So it starts out with a glowing blue meteorite crashing down onto Earth. It hits a small uninhabited island just off the coast of Africa. I say that it is uninhabited did I say that it's uninhabited or uninhibited? Well, it's it's uninhabited and it's uninhibited. Um, but there is a small crew there who work for an oil company. I don't know exactly what they're doing there, but it's something that involves bulldozers and dynamite and stuff. But they are headed they are headed up by the barrel chested Clint Walker, who, he was in tons of stuff, and he's a guy that, these days, I don't know if he's very well known now, but I have liked him in everything that I've ever seen him in. And it's got Neville Brand in it, who, again, I like him in everything too, but the odd thing about this time is that he is actually not a killer or a sex fiend. He's a good guy this time, which is kind of uncommon for him. Two, Robert Urich also shows up, but this was fairly early on for him, and he's not in it much. He's just kind of in it long enough to get his face burned off. But now, if you see like the box art or an advertisement for it, they got his name up front, but he's not in it much. So the guys, they're out doing their thing, and the bulldozer makes contact with the space rock, and a blue light leaves the rock and it goes into the bulldozer. Can you see where this is going? And so the blue light, it gives the bulldozer an evil life of its own. It turns into a Killdozer. It turns into a Killdozer, and it's man against machine in a battle to stay alive. The soundtrack, for the most part, it's the kind of orchestral thing that all these films have. But anytime that the Killdozer is doing it's a killdozing, you hear some weird electronic electronic music. It sounds kind of like somebody beating wind chimes against a Moog synthesizer. You know, I don't know if the Killdozer quite holds up to my childhood memories of it. It's not terrible, but you know, the whole time I was just thinking that it could have been so much more. The main flaw that it has is the location. It is set on an island, but it never feels small. You know, it's all wide open. It's all wide open spaces. You know, it's lots of rocks and dirt. And for the Bulldozer to be scary, you know, it's not a thing that it'll run you down. I mean, I think that I could even outrun a dang bulldozer. And in these wide open spaces, you could see it coming from a half mile off. To have a bulldozer work, it's not speed, and it's not something that it can sneak up on you. It's a thing that it's just raw, unstoppable power, and for that to work, you need to have it in a small, enclosed area to where you can't run. It would have been a whole lot better if they had it set, even if it wasn't the whole film set, but even if they had like the final part of the film set in like some kind of a canyon with like maybe rock walls so far apart on each side to where you can't run from it. You know, the dozer, it's such a slow and a cumbersome thing, but I will say that they did manage to kind of give it a bit of personality. I didn't think that they could, but it's kind of like the lights on it look like eyes, and it does a thing with the blade on the front of it where it kind of moves like that, kind of, and it kind of reminded me of like a dog, how it'll turn its head sideways, kind of. But like I said, it could have been a lot more than what it is, and I do understand that they had to do the best they could with not much money and stuff, but I'm not saying that it's a bad film because it's not. I mean, I watched it the whole time, and at no point did I ever think about about turning it off or taking my own life or anything, but it just kind of feels like a missed opportunity. But still, I mean, it's a nice little hunk of nostalgia, and if you go into it just wanting that and not much more, then you will leave satisfied. So that's about it. Thank you guys. Bye bye.